Hello, and welcome to an episode of Review Something, where I review something. Today's video, talking about the K&F Concept ND and Polarizing filter. Now, first off, what are ND and Polarizer filters? Well, I felt like the best way to demonstrate what an ND filter is to just use one. So, currently I'm using an ND filter, and if I pop it off, you can see the image looks a little bit brighter. And that's kind of the point of an ND filter. It's essentially sunglasses for your lens. As you can see, the area that's inside the filter is darker than the area outside. And all it's doing is darkening the image, so that way you can keep the same exposure without having to change any of your settings. This is very important when it comes to video work, because a lot of the time you're trying to keep the same shutter speed so that the motion and motion blur looks right. So for example, right now, I'm filming this at 30 frames a second, so I want to keep my shutter speed at 1/60th, and I want my aperture to be nice and low at NF2.8. Well, I can't do that without the ND filter because otherwise the shot's overexposed and doesn't look right. This is mainly important when you're trying to keep your f-stop lower, because I could easily crank up the f-stop to f8 or f16 or something, and this shot would be perfectly fine. But I don't want to do that because I want to get some nice depth of field to my shot and make it look more, cinematic. And so the ND filter allows me to do that. So what is a polarizer? That's a little bit more different, and I'm going to demonstrate that right now. So you may have noticed something is different. See the monitors behind me? Well, you can't really see what's on the screen anymore. And that's because the polarizing filter removes reflections. It's kind of a weird concept to understand, but I'll show some test footage to kind of represent this. But essentially, anytime you have a reflection on a window or a car or anything, or even, monitors, behind you, you can throw on a polarizing filter and it will remove those and make your shots look cleaner. There is also a slight bit of ND to polarizing filters, so that is one thing to keep in mind, and that's why I don't have a ND filter on, but it still kind of gives me a little bit of that effect. It's not nearly as strong as a dedicated ND filter, but there's a little bit of ND, so just keep that in mind. Okay, so let's take a look at the actual K&F Concept filters to see what makes these so special and why you should buy them. First off, they come in these kind of plastic little cases, and they do have a good bit of foam padding on the inside, and it's pretty secure. I would trust this in my camera bag. These filters are not going to move or wiggle at all, and the only thing I don't totally love is the locking mechanism, because it holds pretty well, but it's not quite as strong as I would like. And I actually have another filter from K&F Concept. It's an ND filter, and it's what I'm actually using right now. And it came in this case, which, while I do think has less padding, I think it has a better lock to it, and it's a lot stronger, so it's not going to pop open inside of your camera bag. I don't know why these ones came in a different case, but that's just how it is. The one I have on right now is a 1 to 5 stop ND, and it's made specifically for this size lens. The reason I got new ones is because I have two lenses, right? I have the lens I'm filming on right now, which is the Sigma 18 to 35, and I have this guy, the Sigma 50 to 100. And the problem is, these two lenses have different filter sizes. So the filter that I'm using right now wouldn't work on this lens because it's got a bigger frontal, filter ring. So I did something about that, and this is something that I would recommend. So you can buy these, which are called step-up rings, and these adapt lenses to different filter sizes. So this one will take this lens that I'm filming on right now and make it the size of this lens. So I only have to buy one set of filters for both lenses. The step-up ring is not a K&F Concept brand thing. These are like $5 for a 2-pack, so highly recommend it. What is a K&F Concept thing is the magnetic ring that's attached to it. And this was the big drawing point for me. So if I take one of these filters, we have this right here, and it just magnetically locks on. There's no screwing it on, it just pops right on. Super, super simple, very quick, very efficient, and especially on set, it's just another thing that can save you just a little bit of time that is always incredibly, incredibly valuable. Now, as far as the strength of these magnets go, it's pretty strong. I'm not really too worried about it falling off. If you bumped it at just the wrong angle, it could pop off, but I think in most cases on a set where you're in some sort of controlled environment and people aren't bumping the lens accidentally, these magnetic filters are gonna work perfectly fine. Now, the magnetic ring to make this work actually does come with the filter. So if you buy these magnetic ones, this filter, by the way, is $80. This is the ND filter. It is 1 to 5 stops, which if you don't know what stops are, it's literally just a way of measuring light. So think of it as like level 1 intensity to level 5 intensity. And so what I can do then, as you can see here, this is level 1. And then if I turn the filter, it will get stronger, and that's level 5. So it's just more or less light that it will let in. I've actually used KNF concept filters, this is ND filters, like the one I have on right now, for quite some time. I've filmed a lot of stuff on them, and I've had no issues with them. That's why I bought these new magnetic ones, because I've loved them, and they're cheap, they're very affordable. They don't feel cheap. Let me preface that. They are, a metal build, very sturdy, and the filters haven't had any issues that I've noticed with them. No vignetting, no weird color shift or anything. They've been really solid. And so I would wholeheartedly recommend these to anyone, especially if you're on a budget and you're looking for a good solid filter. These are a solid option, especially the magnetic ones, because again, you get more convenience. Polarizing filter. This one's a little slimmer, a little smaller. And so the way this one works, it's kind of weird because it's not marked. This is my only complaint with this polarizing filter, and I could be wrong. I'm not an expert on polarizer filters, but there's no way of marking the intensity of the filter on the lens. There's no markings at all. My only problem with that is it can be difficult to tell like how much it's actually doing stuff, but at the same time, in most situations where you're gonna use this, you're gonna be able to tell whether or not it's at a lower or higher intensity because you can see it literally removing the reflections in your shot. The way this works, it's very similar to the variable ND filter where you actually rotate it, and you literally just stick it on and you just rotate it, and it gets more or less intense. Again, this just doesn't have markings on it. But again, with this filter, it's kind of the same thing with the ND. It's just been solid. I've had no problems with it. I haven't used this one nearly as much as the ND filter, but from what I have used it for, it has worked perfectly. It's worked like a polarizer should, and I think it's genuinely a really good buy for $50. That's right, this is $50. The ND filter is $80, so you're under $200 for two really solid filters, and that's like the magnetic ones too. And then step-up rings are like $5. And so again, you can get, basically like two filters, and these are probably the two filters that you'll want the most for any video work, ND filter and a polarizer. You can get two filters, and if you have 10 lenses, and somehow all 10 lenses are different filter sizes, you can still buy 10 step-up rings and still be around that $200 mark to have filters for all your lenses. Now, obviously, if you have two cameras and you're gonna use two cameras at the same time, you need to buy more than one filter, but obviously you would know that if that's your situation. But yeah, so all in all, I would say these are definitely worth the money. They are a very, very solid budget option. The magnetic ones, they hold very well, they're super convenient, and all around, this is definitely something that if you're looking at getting, and it's one of those things where you're trying to find good filters on a budget, this is one I would highly recommend. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye for now.